What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Israel Adesanya talks about the decision to fight Alex Pereira in November. UFC 281 is going to have an incredible middleweight matchup between champion Israel Adesanya and his former kickboxing rival Alex Pereira. The Brazilian beat Adesanya twice in that sport, the first time by decision in China in 2016, the second time a knockout win in Brazil in 2017. By the time the two meet in the middle of the octagon on November 12th in New York City, it would have been exactly a year since Pereira made his UFC debut, a flying knee knockout of Andreas Michailidis, who isn't even in the UFC anymore. The UFC has certainly made a path for Pereira to challenge Adesanya for the 185-pound belt, given their history and the intrigue that this has promulgated. But Adesanya isn't fazed about anything, given that this is MMA, not kickboxing, and he's been beating some of the top fighters in the world ever since he entered the UFC in 2018. Case in point, this is what Adesanya stated in a recent interview on ESPN's SportsCenter.
So yeah, I run towards the fire, and this is no different. And again, after he beat me, in Brazil, I never had any plans of trying to get revenge or anything like that, because I don't hold on to things. I let go of things. But again, I'm telling you, the universe has presented this to me, and it's right there. It's the perfect alley-oop, and I'm gonna slam this bitch.
Adesanya has 5 successful title defenses and was running circles around the middleweight division. The UFC decided to put Pereira in against increasingly tougher competition and elevate him to this matchup. While Adesanya is coming off of a unanimous decision win over Jared Cannonier at UFC 276, Pereira is also coming off a knockout win over then top 5 middleweight Sean Strickland on the same night. What do you think about Adesanya's comments here? And are you excited for this matchup at Madison Square Garden? Michael Bisping wants to see Jorge Masvidal versus Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal have made it known that they are both keen to meet each other in the octagon, and Michael Bisping is a huge fan of this idea. The matchup would be a welterweight clash of titans and former title challengers who are in the top 10 of the 170-pound division. Masvidal is a big star, while Burns is highly respected among MMA fans and fighters as well, a guy who is a serious threat to anyone. Bisping, a former middleweight champion, looks like he's all in on this fight. Case in point, this is what Bisping said in a recent video on his YouTube channel about it.
Okay, so Masvidal, Gilbert Burns, I mean, come on, that would be a fan-friendly matchup. That is a co-main event on a pay-per-view any day of the week. That is a main event on any fight night in the world. Hey, even a main event on a pay-per-view, they're both absolutely massive stars.
We last saw both of these men fight earlier this year. Masvidal was in the main event of UFC 272 in March when he lost via decision to his former friend Colby Covington after going 5 rounds in a non-title main event. He's also facing some legal troubles due to a physical altercation that took place out of a Miami Beach steakhouse a week or 2 after the fight. Masvidal has dropped 3 straight bouts, although 2 of them are against the champion, Kamaru Usman, and the third was against the number 1 ranked welterweight in Covington. Meanwhile, Burns also lost his last fight, a decision loss to welterweight upstart Khamzat Chimaev back at UFC 273 in April. Burns has dropped 2 of his last 3 fights, with his lone win coming against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Do you want to see this fight? And who do you think would win this bout? Geoff Neal calls out Gilbert Burns after beating Vicente Luque. No doubt at some point this week, Geoff Neal is going to be ranked in the top 10 of the UFC welterweight division, especially after putting away a tough Vicente Luque in the UFC Vegas 59 event this weekend. It was an all-out brawl between these two fighters, with Neal getting the better of Luque in the opening round, dropping the Brazilian with some strong shots. While Luque was able to mount a bit of a comeback in the second round, Neal pulled it out in the third by landing sweet shots, including several strong uppercuts that ultimately put Luque away for the knockout victory. This is Luque's second loss in a row after he dropped a decision to Belal Muhammad earlier this year. Meanwhile, Geoff Neal makes it 2 straight victories after beating Santiago Ponzinibbio last December. After the fight, Neal called out another Brazilian in Gilbert Burns, a former welterweight title challenger, saying he believes he can get past one of the toughest fighters at 170 pounds. Neal also has a win over Belal Muhammad, whom he beat by unanimous decision in early 2019. Muhammad is ranked number 5 in the division, while Luque is ranked number 6 compared to Neal, who is ranked number 13 going into this weekend's fight. What do you think about Neal's performance? And do you want to see him fight Gilbert Burns? Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to stay up to date on all the latest fight news. Geoff Novitsky explains why UFC pulled Josh Quinlan prior to UFC Vegas 59. The UFC Vegas 59 event was supposed to include a welterweight fight between Josh Quinlan and Jason Witt. However, just hours before the event, the Nevada Athletic Commission declined to clear Quinlan for the scheduled bout after he tested positive for trace amounts of an M3 metabolite. The urine sample contained a small amount of the oral steroid turinabol. UFC Senior Vice President of Athlete Health and Performance, Geoff Novitsky, explained to reporters that Quinlan had been suspended for 9 months for testing positive for the same exact thing ahead of the Dana White's Contender Series in 2021. While he did test negative 14 times in between his suspension and this week, a new sample showed he had less than 100 picograms of M3 metabolite in his system. The NAC did not allow the fight to go on, although Novitsky states that the fight has been moved for next week's UFC San Diego event on August 13, with the California State Athletic Commission doing an independent investigation and determination of their own. What do you think about this? After leaving the UFC, Sam Alvey wants to go to the WWE. It's been 4 years since Sam Alvey has tasted victory, having gone 9 fights winless, including 8 losses and 1 no contest. His last win was back in 2018, a split decision victory over Gian Villante. For this reason, and the fact that he's now finished the last fight on his contract, a first-round TKO loss to Michael Oleksiejczuk this weekend at UFC Vegas 59, Smilin' Sam is parting ways with the UFC. For Sam, it's the end of an incredible chapter in his life, having entered the UFC all the way back in 2014 and having had his hand raised 10 times in the octagon. What's next for Sam is uncertain, but in a perfect world, he feels that the WWE would be the best landing spot for someone like him. Case in point, this is what Alvey said to Andy Whitelaw prior to this weekend's fight.
Hey, you know what? If the UFC and I decide not to continue our relationship together, I want so desperately to be in the WWE. That is what got me into fighting to begin with. I love that sport. I love the every part of that. That would be a dream. But I like fighting so much. I don't want to stop. I'm sure I will land on my feet. And I don't bare knuckle boxing or Eagle FC or Bellator. I could go back to Bellator or that PF. I love tournaments. The PFL tournament might be perfect for me.
While he went on to say that he hadn't had any discussions with any other MMA promotions or the WWE, he's keeping his options open. What do you think about this? Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.